Hello and welcome to the History Lunch Break. I'm Sarah M. Mask and I'm the Public Programs Coordinator.
And I am Catherine Johns. I'm the Curator of Education at the Greensboro History Museum.
And I'm Auston Henderson, a part of the cast of Hamilton.
So today we're diving into our revolutionary past and Greensboro's connection to Hamilton the musical. It's really kind of funny. As I was studying Alexander Hamilton's story and looking back at the themes that are highlighted in the musical, many of them follow the stories of early residents in Guilford County and the players and influencers in our special exhibit, NC Democracy 11 Elections. Some themes like immigrants have major impact in our history. Establishing and preserving a democracy is not an easy feat. It is progress and it's setbacks along the way. And lastly, how individuals can, no matter their background, can have such a major impact and make a difference in our stories.
And which Auston will know about because he is actually a local to North Carolina. North Carolina also played an important role in the debate about the U.S. Constitution between the groups that are what are called anti-federalists, which means they wanted a smaller central government, and the federalists who wanted a larger central government, which of course Hamilton was part of. And we also in Greensboro, which is where Hamilton will be playing at the Tanger Center, are the hosts of a major American Revolutionary War battle called the Battle of Guilford Courthouse that happens on March 15th, 1781. And as some may know, of course, that 1781 is proudly proclaimed in the Hamilton musical, and I bet Auston also knows about that too.
Yes.
And then one smaller thing, which we were not 100%, we didn't realize, but Auston is going to have a big connector to this as well. But we are actually the birthplace of First Lady Dolly Madison, who is the wife of James Madison, who is featured in the musical. So Auston, we know you went to Elon and are a alumni. But we're here with Auston Henderson from the Castle of Hamilton. And Auston, will you tell us a little bit more about yourself and who you are covering for the musical?
Yes. So I grew up in Houston. Always knew that I wanted to be a performer since I was 3 years old. It just never changed. I was always dancing and singing on the tables and everything. But my mom moved out to North Carolina when I was 5 years old. And I used to visit all the time. Um, Frequent trips to Carowinds and
Of course, like you do.
and cookout, and just all of the amazing things that the Triad has to offer. But yeah, like I just got started in school heavily singing and got the theater bug in high school and eventually went to Elon and studied in music theater there. I kind of took a little detour to like write music because I'm a songwriter. Um,
Oh,
but then after the pandemic happened, a lot of us were like, what do we do, moving forward? And so I decided to jump back in the theater and I did some work at Oregon Shakespeare Festival and then I got Hamilton in between that, which was unreal.
man.
The character that I play, I'm Man Five, so I in the show I play like Papa Schuyler, James Reynolds, and like the doctor in the ensemble, but I also cover George Washington, Lafayette Jefferson, and Madison Mulligan as well.
Whoa. So those are the biggies and some of the most complicated lyrics to sing and perform in the musical often. So wow, that's incredible.
Yes, they all have their own little like toughness within them, but yes, definitely Jefferson is.
Whoa.
I'm constantly having to go over the words whenever I'm about to have to go on because it's so many and and they also repeat a lot of different words like
Mhm.
every action has its equal opposite reaction or how does a bastard orphan, and so you're like, okay, which one is this one?
Yeah. And I'm sure I bet in especially Guns and Ships, right? Which is
Chips is It's sometimes like backstage, sometimes I'm like, worried about if my tongue and my mouth are gonna work correctly. And then I get on stage and it's something about like the adrenaline or something. It's like I almost feel like I'm rapping even faster
Oh,
because I'm just like so like, you know, buzzed up and excited.
that's
But
awesome. That is amazing. So I think so. We're real quick. I do want to note for our audience because we talked about it a little bit, but no, some people don't know this. But you get to portray Washington, and Washington actually did come into this area as part of his battlefield tours, touring the Revolutionary War battlefields. So he came into the Guilford County at the time, but the Greensboro area late in his presidency as essentially a morale booster. And we at the museum actually have a few different pieces. So we actually have a pair of what are claimed to be George Washington spurs. We're pretty sure they are. And a cup and a plate that are on display in the museum right now that George Washington ate off of in a tavern nearby.
it's so cool.
Very
So
exciting.
yes, I love Washington is my favorite character
Mm.
to um, portray. It's been a dream, honestly, because I've been singing One Last Time since 2015,
Oh,
and so I just have those pinch me moments whenever I get to sing that song, where I'm just like, am I really doing this right now? Like, is this really happening? And I just cry almost every end because it's just magical and it's so incredible to portray a character that is so strong and but also so much heart, because behind that strength is has to be, love and compassion and care. And I feel like a lot of that comes out in One Last Time, where he's like, I just want to sit under my fig tree in the shade and just put my feet up and just enjoy work and everything. And you can see the tenderness and like
yeah.
the love for the country and for people and it's just an amazing track and character to play.
Oh, that's
I
amazing.
I know that it's kind of a theme throughout the musical is like legacy and how history is written. And often Washington's like, I'm not worried about that quite often. But as you're portraying Washington and other characters, what have you learned about history from being part of the show?
All we have things in the show called timestamps where we're like 1781 or the election of 1800. And I feel like it is like sticking so much more than like when I learned in school. It's like, oh yeah, Battle of Yorktown,
Yeah.
1781. That's like I know the year now. So so like little things like that. But also I really loved how you brought up legacy because there's a lot going on in the world and in the country, and sometimes we can't see progress. Um, and it's a hard, like, kind of fact to grasp, but sometimes the progress we may not see. And I love that Hamilton says legacy, it's like planting seeds in a garden that you never get to see. And so it's having that hope and that belief
Yeah.
that this will move forward, that progress will happen, that things can change, even if I don't get to see it in my lifetime, which is huge because a lot of these people, I sometimes think, I feel like I thought about it a lot when I was in Philly, just because that's such a historical, Independence Hall, Liberty Bell, everything. And I just had the thought, I was like, what would they think of Philly now? Like I looked up the oldest photo of Philly, which I think was in like the early or maybe not early 1800s, but in the 1800s.
Hmm.
And I was just trying to look and see the differences, the connections, and see and just like what would they think about everything going on now? And like what if Washington were to just sit in the audience and see Hamilton like everything being told. And it just really makes me think the show it's so successful and people love it so much because it's alive. The
Yeah.
show just constantly breathes and is so important every single day, and it's something that I just notice every time, like even Nathaniel Green,
Yeah.
actor, little nuggets all throughout that you realize these were real people, these were real things that happened. And I'm just constantly like just pondering and just reflecting every night. And that's the magic of the show. That's why people keep coming back and just love the show, because no matter where you are in your life and the changes that happen, there's something that you can relate to and something you could pull from the show. So it's just ever evolving, which is magical.
It is magical. And it's such a incredibly crafted musical to touch both kind of some more modern pieces of what we go through while also telling a story with some tweaking about the history to it as well. And you know, we I know you've been in some other musicals previously too. Do you think that a historic musical kind of has a different feel than, say, a more magical one, like Wicked or something like that?
Yeah, I definitely I do think so, because it just kind of, even though it's theater and it feels like it's kind of like a fairy tale land, and we're telling a story and we're playing dress up, it's so real. It's
Yeah.
things that are happening right now. Like before I came to Hamilton, I did Rent. And of
Yeah.
course, like, this is a like a false story based on true events.
Mhm.
But the history of it all, the AIDS epidemic and everything that was going on through that time with art and with theater, and just that revolution that was happening within itself, um, it's just so real. And
Yeah.
it's something that we are still going through today. I mean, we just recently wrapped up our Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS fundraiser.
Hmm.
Just start to see how these things just play in life. But the beautiful thing about theater is it's always a reflection of life, even Wicked. I feel like seeing the movie, it just hit so differently, and it just made you reflect on like discrimination and bullying and
Hmm.
just realizing how your differences is your superpower. Um, and so I just think that the beautiful thing about theater is it's always a reflection, but definitely historical pieces just hit in a different way, with our history and with everything that we're going on, that's going on now within our country and our world and politics and everything involved like that. But yeah,
I love that you brought up Rent too, just because it's such a touchstone for so many people in musical theater. It really did have a massive impact, especially to bring up very sensitive topics and just throw it into people's faces.
yeah. And I feel like Hamilton is becoming the touchstone for the next generation, and that's just such an incredible thing, especially it's an incredible thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
Uh, I can't believe that I get to be a part of this legacy forever. Talking about legacy, it's like my name will forever be etched into the Hamilton legacy, which is unreal to even say. A year ago, I would have not even known anything like this was happening. So,
It's incredible.
And Hamilton really brings the people that we read about in our textbooks or see pictures of in museums and other things, and really brings them to life. They're human beings and they're very much like any other person today. And that's something we talk about a lot, is they're very much people living their lives just in a very different time period than us. And Hamilton pulls a lot of those difficulties that are happening during that time and lets the characters grapple with them. Is there anything you find difficult about being a modern person portraying somebody or a character that has colonial ideals?
Yes. It is, we kind of talked about it a lot at the beginning. Of course, like a lot of these founding fathers were slave owners,
Mhm.
and there's little touches throughout the show, like in the cabinet battles, where they talk about, we know who's really doing the planting. And with What Did I Miss? We actually did a different version than is
Oh,
on Broadway or on the Disney Plus because the creative team realized that we had a responsibility and there was something that needed to be done about it. Because Sally Heming is a part of the What Did I Miss number.
yes.
And so we found a way to really like, there are little nuggets in the show where we like zip our mouth and we lock it and we throw the key. We're like, we know that this problem is happening, but we're gonna, you know, like allude to it, but not really, touch on it, which can be really tough. Especially in the world of hip hop and R&B
Yeah.
and having like a full cast of color. And so it's something that I've had to really think about and talk about. And I love, especially with Washington at the very end of the show, when Eliza says, I speak out against slavery. You can see the even in the show the evolvement. It's like I don't know what Eliza's beliefs were beforehand, but to know that at the end of it all, she was speaking against slavery, and then Washington echoes her. She tells my story. There's a little moment that the director put in for us with she tells my story where we give like a heart or we give a fist or we give a bow or something to just because it's something that we can't ignore
Mhm.
throughout the show. And I don't think that it was fully ignored, especially like Lawrence getting the first Black battalion. I feel like it's kind of this balancing act, which I feel like we are really going through in our country today. Um, but it's also a feeling of regaining that power or kind of taking back the story to be able to portray these characters and tell this story in our own way in
Mhm.
culture is a way of kind of taking back our power and coming into our strength and realizing like you said that these people are people too, and realizing that because it's very easy to be like, oh, these are figments of my imagination, and we see like oil paintings of them, no real pictures, like it's hard sometimes to realize that these were real people because it was so long ago. But yeah, I feel like whenever I do the show, if there's ever a moment where I'm feeling just like not connected because of reasons like that. I just find a way to take my power and come into my strength and realize that everything that has happened, good or bad, has led me to be here on this stage, to even be here on this earth. Um, and so that's kind of the work that I go through. And I know a lot of people go through a lot of work on their own and have talked to the creative team on their own to really talk about it and not just act like it's not anything that's happening. So there have been a lot of changes and a lot of nuggets and a lot of conversations around some of the tough conversations and the tough things that happened at that time.
Absolutely. And it is so important to be able to lift up those voices and give them a full multidimensional portrayal, good, bad, everything in between. You're so right. And we always try to make sure that we're, at least from the Greensboro History Museum, stating very upfront Some of the people who came through, they were absolutely enslavers. We don't agree with that, especially not in this modern day. We need to talk about them because they made some important historic waves, but we want to talk about the fact that they did something that we see to be morally incredibly wrong, that have hurt people to this day.
Yeah, definitely. It's tough conversations, but we have to have the tough conversations. And
Absolutely.
everything else that Hamilton brings to the forefront because it's so thought-provoking. I feel like you can't leave the show, even us as cast members, you can't leave the show without reflecting every
Oh,
night. Whenever you cool down and whenever you're coming down from the show, just reflecting on the story and um how it impacts you personally every night and how it's different every night. Because I've been going through things in my personal life and now it's quiet uptown just has me in tears.
oh, rips my heart out. Oh,
Just the word forgiveness. And I'm like, okay, that's my word for today. I need that for
yeah,
today, you know? Um, and so it's like I said, it's alive.
yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about it. It's telling the story of what was alive then and it's alive now and it'll be alive moving forward whenever, in the future.
So noting on that, and noting on it's live going to the future. What do you think is the moment in the musical that is just going to kind of live on?
Mm.
I don't want to say forever because things can be lost, but what do you think has just waves and waves and waves and waves of impact from your experience?
I honestly think like my shot is something that is so huge. It's the pinnacle moment and it's so interesting because it happens so early and I know that there's a reason for it. I can't remember, but I know that Lynn put or I've heard that Lynn put my shot early on in the show because it's this
Mm,
production number. It almost feels like it could be like honestly at the end of Nonstop he says I am not throwing away my shot and then act one is done.
yeah.
The common theme throughout the entire show, especially the first act. And I just think that it's so impactful because it shows people to go for what they want, go for their dreams, be bold like Hamilton, take those risks. He had nothing. He came with nothing, no family, no money, no anything. And it just reminds you like even if I have nothing, I can still make something out of something and I can still be this great. I mean, he was so great into being a founding father from nothing. And so that's so inspiring to to everyone, especially to me. And I think that that's such a great slogan. And of course, like legacy again, that's so important. Family legacy, your personal legacy, your professional legacy is something that carries on and I feel like it's something we talk about even outside of, politics or history. And when you go to family reunions and you
Yeah.
see of your family and it's something that is so important and something to think about, as you're curating your life and who you want to be in life. And I just have to throw in a little nugget of Skylar's sisters of including women in the sequel. I think that is so important, especially right now. And it's something that I want to be said and rang in the halls of these theaters time and time to come. Um, but I know I'm giving like five answers and I'm so
No,
That is
give
a-okay.
up,
And that's
give all of them.
there's so much connections. I mean, we talk a lot about suffragists, especially being in the 20s. We've spent a lot of time talking about their legacy and their impact. We actually have a marker dedicated to Gertie Well at the old Guilford Courthouse, who was a suffragist. So women's vote, the right to vote, who had the right to vote, is something we've spent a lot of time with Project Democracy and our NC Democracy exhibit. So we are so glad you're getting to talk about all of the things that we have been highlighting here at the museum.
I'm gonna shame Lin-Manuel for 2 seconds, and I promise not very much. The only character that I feel truly is done so dirty in the musical is actually Angelica,
Yeah.
because she is a unbelievable actual historic figure who went across the ocean. She didn't marry for money. She got disowned because she married a British person. Gets Lafayette out of prison at one point in time during the French Revolution. She's an amazing, amazing woman, but she is, even as credible as the character is and as incredible as the actresses portraying her are, her character was boiled down to almost like this romantic side interest
Yeah.
as opposed to who she really is. I encourage anybody watching this, please look her up. She was an unbelievable person. And of the Schuyler sisters, she is definitely the standout, just an incredible one. She did write Hamilton nonstop, though. They were big correspondents. But yeah, just my small shame, I promise. I'm off the soapbox now, I swear.
I think that's the fun part about musicals is it's like the surface. Like it's our job to go out and do the research, visit the museums, visit the historic sites, and learn more about these people because there's so many stories. Like I learned so much just the connections between Nathaniel Greene and Alexander Hamilton. They were in New York together during the Battle of New York, which they talk about really early on in the musical. And so there's so much more to learn. Like go to the musical, enjoy it, come see us at the museum, but also do your own research and learn about these amazing people that are highlighted.
Sure. I know my uncle, he came to see the show and he was like, did this really happen? Did that? Because his two favorite things are hip hop and
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
And he'd never seen the show ever before, not even Disney Plus, anything.
Come on. What?
Oh my God, like he could not believe it. And when I got back home, I had like five text messages of like these different articles, these different pictures, and I was like, oh my God, it really forces people or intrigues people to just start digging. Like
Mhm.
even for me, I was like, what did the real Reynolds pamphlet look like? As me playing James Reynolds, looking up Reynolds and the Reynolds pamphlet. And what I love about the show too is the attention to detail. They are so detailed within the costumes
Yes.
and
Oh,
the pieces. I look at pictures of George Washington and I'm like, oh my gosh, there those are the colors, those are the how the buttons were. That's how the tights, the shoes with the metal thing on. I mean, the attention to detail is crazy and it just intrigues you and inspires you to want to know more because obviously like if we fleshed out every character in the show, it would be a 10-hour musical. And it's already 3 hours.
oh yeah.
So I piggyback you on, and even for myself to really research these characters because there are so many things that just can't be said
Yeah.
with the show that are amazing facts and just information about these characters that honestly will just make the show that more elevated. And I feel like you'll find even more little nuggets throughout the show, like, oh, I read that. Like that's what, and just those little light bulbs and realizations throughout the show. So I definitely encourage that as well. It's so much history to learn and so many character to dig into.
So many little pieces all over the place. You were a billion% right, Austin. We're encourage everyone to go see Hamilton.
Yes. Come see us.
Yes. And Hamilton will be in the Tanger Center from Thursday, January 26th through Sunday, January 5th.
Oh, December 26th.
Excuse
Sorry, that
me,
was me.
December 26th. Sorry, December 26th through Sunday, January 5th. I apologize. Please go See it. This is an incredible musical. If you've never seen it before, you need to see it. If you've already seen it, go see it again because you can learn more nuggets of history and be in awe of the momentum of historic costumes that are shown on stage and get to see amazing performers like Austin, who's going to be portraying different characters. And if you all are also interested in coming to the Greensboro History Museum, we are open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. and on Sundays from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. So you have lots of chances before you go and see Hamilton in the Tanger Center, which is right across the street. You can come and stop by with us, and we are a free museum.
Yes, the cast will definitely be coming to visit for sure. So check it out. Check us out.
And if you want to know more about North Carolina and our democracy and how choices and change has changed over time, this exhibit will be up until summer of 2025. So we're very excited to be able to explore democracy a little bit longer before we head to our next special exhibit.
Yes. And we could just stay in the triad
Right.
till you know.
Stay here. It's a residency, right? Artist residency.
Well, we'll just become, North Carolinians, all of us.
Yeah, we'll adopt all of you.
Well, thank you, Austin, so much for stopping by and sitting in and talking to us for a little while. We've had so much fun, and we're so excited to see you on stage at Tanger.
Thank you. This is such an honor. Thank you.